Living out of 2 backpacks 1 year later, what have I learned? What up YouTube? It's your boy Jermaine back with another video, and in this video I'm going to talk about something that I have been waiting to talk about for a very long time. It has officially been my 1 year anniversary of me living out of 2 backpacks. I'll show you the 2 backpacks right here. First backpack is this green one here, not very big, huh? Not very big. The other backpack is this red North Face backpack. This is backpack number 2. However, there is a third backpack. I usually keep this backpack empty, and this backpack is usually packed inside of the green backpack. So let's just talk about this. And oh yeah, I cannot forget the boosted board, because the boosted board has been with me not the full year, but almost a full year. Oh, that thing's heavy with the extended range battery on it. Let's just jump right into this. Jermaine, you've been living out of 2 backpacks for a year plus. Let's talk about this now. About a year ago, I moved out of my house in Oakland, and when I moved out of my house in Oakland, I had a pretty good rent situation. I knew that I'm going to have to find a place in the city, and looking for a place in San Francisco is not easy. Actually, it's probably easier to find a job than it is an apartment. So I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, what am I going to do? At the same time, I was also thinking, look, I want to travel this year. I don't want to be stuck in freezing San Francisco in the summer, because if you guys are not from San Francisco, it can be pretty chilly in the summer. When it's 100 degrees in New York, it can easily be 50 degrees in San Francisco on certain days. Especially in the afternoons when the fog rolls in and that wind picks up. Yeah, it can get pretty dang chilly in San Francisco. And I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about, look, I don't want to spend my summer here, and I don't want to be locked into a lease and now I can't go anywhere. So I'm just stuck here, and I'm stuck paying crazy amounts of rent, and I'm stuck, you know, paying $15 for lunch, and I'm thinking, I don't want to do this. So what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I got to move out. I got to go somewhere. Ideally, I want to stick around for the next 2 months for sure, but I don't want to sign a year lease. And I also don't want to go through the whole Facebook groups and, you know, looking for a roommate, and you got to prove yourself. You got to show how much money you make and what companies you work for. It's just like, I don't want to go through all that. So I said to myself, look, let's just do Airbnb. I'll stick around for a month, I'll go to New York, and then I'll figure out what I'm going to do for them. So I booked an Airbnb. Now this Airbnb I booked was down in Daly City. This was like a hostel type style Airbnb. Showed up to that Airbnb, and I absolutely loved it, because it reminded me of like backpacking through Europe. Like everyone there was from another country, and it was just this really awesome vibe, and it was this really cool house, and it was a really big house too. Lots of people lived there. I was digging it, man. I was digging this whole living out of an Airbnb. Now I stayed at that location for about a month, and then I took a trip to New York. Now let's talk about this whole trip to New York. Now since I'm staying in an Airbnb, when I leave and go to New York, I'm not paying anything here, like in San Francisco. On the other hand, if I was renting a place in San Francisco, and if I wanted to go to New York for a week, I would still have to pay for my apartment in San Francisco. But instead, now I'm living out of Airbnb with 2 backpacks. When I leave San Francisco, I don't have to pay for rent there. So this works out pretty good. So I went to New York, stayed in New York, I can't remember, maybe a week or so, or 2 weeks, then I went down to Miami, caught a flight down to Miami. Was in Miami a couple days. I drove from Miami to Tennessee. Basically, I was bouncing around the country, okay? Went to Tennessee, came back to, I believe I flew to LA, and then stayed in LA for like a week, and then went back to SF. All this time I was staying in Airbnbs or hostels, and I was just having a blast, man. Like, I was having a good time, because I'm thinking, I don't have to pay rent. Like, I'm thinking, crap, I don't have to pay rent in a place that I'm not at. I don't have to pay for a car payment, and I'm not using the card. Like I'm gone, and I'm gone, you know. When I come back, I'm back. This is pretty cool. So, came back to San Francisco, stayed for maybe a couple weeks, went to New York, and stayed for the whole summer. And when I went to New York State for the whole summer, I was looking for an Airbnb for the whole time, and that was a little difficult to find. People may not want to rent a room out in their house for an entire summer, and at the same time, I did not exactly know if I wanted to stay in New York for the entire summer. Who knows, what if my plans change and, you know, DC, Boston, Philly, there's other cities around. So I stayed at this one Airbnb in New York. It was in Washington Heights. Freaking love that Airbnb, yo, because it was just a different neighborhood. It was a different vibe. The Airbnb was pretty cool. It was nothing glamorous, but it was just, it worked. Like, it was a good Airbnb. From there, I went to Staten Island. Staten Island was a whole nother adventure. You literally have to take the ferry 30 minutes to get to the city, like, every morning. A lot of people may dread taking the ferry, but I actually kind of like taking the ferry, because as soon as I got off the ferry in Manhattan and just skate just a short distance over to the west side, and that was where I spent majority of my time when I was in New York. So that worked out great. I got to experience different parts of New York that I would never get to experience. If I was only just staying in Airbnbs in Brooklyn and only staying in Airbnbs in hostels in Manhattan, I would not have experienced all the areas in Staten Island that I got to experience. And Staten Island is a very, very unique part of New York. I know a lot of people think that Staten Island is like the gutters, but actually it's a pretty cool place. It reminds me of San Francisco a lot. It's very, very hilly. It's probably not a place that I would want to, you know, live long term, but for the summer, it was a pretty cool place to stay. I got no idea what Staten Island is like in the middle of the winter, but I would imagine that the ferry ride would be a little bit colder than the ferry ride in the summertime. The ferry ride in the summertime, especially on a nice, cool summer night, was incredible. It felt so good. You walk outside, you see the city, you see all the lights. What a wonderful experience. So now it's time to leave New York, and it's time to leave New York. Now, as I was flying to New York the first time, I was flying with my electric skateboard here, and I had problems with TSA, so I actually had to mail my skateboard all the way to New York. So on the way back, I said, look, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to take the train all the way back. And now, once again, taking the train is not the fastest way to get from New York to LA. You can take a flight and get there in 5 hours. However, when you don't have an apartment that you have to pay for, when you don't have utilities that you have to pay for, when you don't have a cable bill that you don't have to pay for, when you don't have an apartment that you have to pay for, you can sort of take your time and travel cross country and have a good time. Because the flight was about $200, and I could fly from New York to LA in 5 hours. Now, taking the train was like $220, and it took 3.5 days. Now, I get it, a lot of people may not be down with taking the train for 3.5 days, but for me, that was great. Like, it was an experience. It was something that I always wanted to do. And if I had an apartment and a car and, you know, a job, there's no way I would find the time to take the train cross country. I also got to jump off the train at multiple stops and skateboard around. Got to skateboard around in Chicago, got to skateboard around Albuquerque. So finally making it back to LA. So what do I do when I make it back to LA? I look for another Airbnb to stay at. I look for another Airbnb, and I'm there for, I think I stayed in LA for about 10 days, and then I made my way back up to the Bay. This time, me returning back to the Bay, I have it set in my mind that I'm going to stay here for 3 months. Instead of looking for an Airbnb, I was looking around on Craigslist, and I actually found a place that I ended up staying for 3 months. And that place was really cool, and after I checked out of that place, went back to LA for another week, then came back to San Francisco, and by this time, it's this year. It's January 2018. Then, what do? I go take a trip over to the Middle East, stay in Israel for a month, flew back to Western Europe, traveled all the way down to Barcelona, and then returned back to the US. And now I find myself back in the US, back traveling, and it's been a year, and that has went by really, really fast. So what have I learned? What have I learned from living out of 2 backpacks for more than a year? I've learned so many things. Quickly, my spending habits changed a lot. They changed a lot. Now, before I started this whole journey of traveling and living out of Airbnbs and being very minimal, I wasn't that big into shopping anyway. Like, I would just mainly buy stuff when I really, really need it. Now, I buy stuff like when things are broken. Now I did buy a new boosted board. That was because my other boosted board was broken, and I did send it back to warranty, so I'll probably get it back soon, and I'll have 2 boosted boards. I guess that means I'll just have 2 boosted boards. But when it comes to things like clothing and shoes, like I will literally wear shoes until they fall apart, or I will wear a shirt until there's holes in the shirt. There is no, oh, I'm just gonna go to the mall and buy a new shirt just because I like a new shirt. If I buy a new shirt, I'm gonna throw away another shirt. If I buy a new pair of shoes, I'm gonna throw away another pair of shoes. And this is how I keep everything minimal. Now I bet you're wondering, does everything you own fit in these 2 bags? No, everything I own do not fit in these 2 bags. I live a very minimalistic lifestyle, but I don't consider myself a minimalist just because I just feel like I have a lot of like random stuff. Like if you open this backpack right here, majority of it is going to be YouTube stuff. It's going to be cameras, it's going to be cords, it's going to be all like stuff to make YouTube videos. And that's why I don't call myself a minimalist, because like this backpack is like a mess. Like, I mean, I don't have a lot of stuff in my life, and this is not everything I own. I do own a couple other electric skateboards that are like, all over California. I have a couple bikes that I don't typically ride. I should probably sell them. If I haven't ridden a bike in 3 months, I don't typically need a bike anymore. If I haven't used a camera in 3 months, I don't think I need that camera anymore. So there are a couple things that I do have. I do store things with an app called Omni, which is an amazing app. The bad thing about this app is it's only in the Bay Area. If this app existed in New York, like, I would have stuff in this app in New York. If this app was in LA, like I would have stuff stored in this app in LA. So when I'm in LA, I could, pull out the electric bike and ride it around LA. And I could have an electric bike in LA. And the same thing with New York. Like I would have a boosted board in New York, and I didn't have to take it on the airplane and didn't have to go through the airport security deal. That would be pretty sick. That would be pretty cool. Other things I've learned about living out of 2 backpacks. Life is about experience, and staying in different places, even in the same city, you'll have a different experience. I'll give you this example. I typically like to stay in downtown San Francisco because everything I do is in downtown, so it just makes sense that I'm downtown. That way I won't have to get on a bus and go downtown. I won't have to get on a train and ride all the way to the city and go downtown. I would just rather just be downtown. Well, a couple weeks ago, I stayed at a place in Twin Peaks, and Twin Peaks is not downtown. If you're familiar with San Francisco, you know where Twin Peaks is. It's at the top of the hill. If you're unfamiliar with San Francisco, Twin Peaks is at the top of the hill, and it's actually a really nice neighborhood. In a lot of my vlogs, I may talk about how there are a lot of homeless people in San Francisco. However, in Twin Peaks, I did not see one homeless person in Twin Peaks. Another unusual thing about Twin Peaks I noticed, definitely got to give Twin Peaks a thumbs up for this one. Parking is not as difficult as most parts of the city. Like, you can actually park without driving around in circles and looking for a parking spot. Like, there's plenty of parking up there, and it seems like it's pretty safe to park a car there, because most parts of San Francisco, you go park your car and you look down and you see broken glass on the street, and that typically means that someone got their car broken into in that same parking spot that you just parked your car in. And in Twin Peaks, I didn't notice any broken glass on the street. So I take it Twin Peaks is a really, really nice area. So what are some of the benefits of this alternative lifestyle, or this new way of living? Well, I can name a ton of benefits. First off, you don't have to come up with a deposit to move into a place. For example, a lot of apartments in San Francisco, if you want to move in, you have to provide first month's rent and last month's rent and a security deposit. Let's say the rent's $1,000 a month, or let's say it's $1,500 a month. You got to come up with what, $4,500 just to move in, and it's only $1,500 a month. That's a lot of money to cough up at one time. With a site like Airbnb or weekly hotels, you don't need to come up with $4,500 to move in. Number two, you're not locked into a lease. So if you want to leave, you can stay up until the amount of time that you paid for, and then you can leave. Number three, you don't typically have to clean. I haven't cleaned a bathroom in more than a year. I haven't cleaned a kitchen in more than a year. Now, I've definitely washed my dishes and I've definitely cleaned up messes, but just doing a whole load of dishes, no, that's something I haven't done. Another thing I really like too is not having to worry about paying a utility bill or an internet bill. You guys, I know you guys have had roommates, and at the end of the month, you know, you put the utility bill on the refrigerator and then you write down how much everyone owes. $22.43 and $21.17 and you know, $74.35 and $85.24. None of that. None of that. Like, none of that Venmoing roommates and utility bill here, internet bill here. You just don't have to worry about that because the price is already included. I know a lot of people that live out of Airbnbs in the Bay Area, but they typically live in one Airbnb for a month, and then they move from that Airbnb and go to another Airbnb. Sometimes people may live in an Airbnb for 3 months and then move to another Airbnb, stay for 3 months. But if you like to bounce around and go all over the country as well as go all over the world like me, and you don't want to pay top dollar, because San Francisco is so expensive. Like, it's so expensive. I don't want to be paying top dollar here in San Francisco when I'm out traveling somewhere else. It would be really ideal for me not to pay top dollar and I'm out traveling somewhere else that's much cheaper than top dollar San Francisco. So these are some of the things I've learned. This is pretty much my experience of living out of 2 backpacks for the past year. I said to myself that I would only do this for 1 year. I think I want to keep doing this, maybe for like 2 more years. Maybe I'll stop doing this when I'm 33, so that gives me 2 more years to live out of a backpack. Meanwhile, I can save a lot of money, and I can also invest a lot of money into ETFs, because I don't own a house, and you know, when you own a house, you have like an investment, and you have like, well, some people call it an investment, but you have this thing that you're going to live in the future. But in my case, and for me, since I'm living out of Airbnbs, I just save money, invest money, buy ETFs, and when I am tired of living like this, when I want to settle down, hopefully by that time I have enough money for a down payment for a house, maybe back in my hometown, probably not in the Bay Area because it's crazy expensive here in the Bay Area. But anyway, guys, just wanted to make a video talking about my whole year, past year, living out of 2 backpacks. It's been a fun journey, and if it's something that you want to do, go for it. If that's something that you can do, I mean, power to you. It's a lot of fun. You'll learn so much, and you'll get to experience way more. Like this past year, I've experienced so much in the past year, and this year, I only want to experience even more. Thanks a lot for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace out, yo.